Good evening, all of you. Uh, Today we are going to have a guest lecture by Mr. Jagannathan Raju. He is presently working as Deputy General Manager at Vic Sandvik Ship Design Center at Vishakhapatnam. So he is having plenty of experience in ship design aspects, especially in the structural design area. Basically, he did B in mechanical engineering and then MTech in naval architecture from Andhra University, Visakhapatnam. So he is very good in ship design area. So that is the reason I requested him to deliver a guest lecture for us. Okay, so we'll be having a lecture on now structural design aspects of fishing vessel and design considerations of fishing vessel. Okay, so all of you please uh, put your heart and soul on the lecture, and once the lecture is completed from this side, then we'll have the question answer sessions. Okay, so please listen carefully and try to ask relevant questions. Okay. uh, okay, Mr. Raju, you can start now. Floor is open for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, good evening, all. This is Jagannath Raju, presently working as Deputy General Manager in Vic Sandvik Design Private Limited. And basically, I'm a mechanical graduate, and I did my master's in the naval architecture. And I'm having more than 24 years of experience in the marine design. And I mostly involved in the naval architecture, structural, and fee analysis part. And also I involve in end-to-end designs, just a design spiral, complete design spiral from tender design to the delivery of the production design documentation. So that is about my background and the experience. So today we will discuss about design parameters and structural design of fishing vessels. So let us discuss about briefly this general class notations. The main descriptive class notation of the fishing vessels and the supplementary notations of the fishing trawlers, strand trawlers, and side trawlers. And also there is a special class notations like RC. RC is the remote control of the main propulsion from the bridge, and RIC is the cargo refrigeration installations, and CFD is the certified fishing gears. And also there is some service notations is unrestricted service and some restricted service, coastal service, and sheltered water service based on the operation of the vessel. And fishing vessels optimize design range. For example, if you take length by breadth ratio within the range of 4.4 to 5.8, and breadth by draft ratio is around 2 to 2.6, and the prismatic coefficient the minimum 0.58 to maximum 0.65, and the CB is in the range of 0.48 to 0.59. These are the general optimum design range for the fishing vessels. And from the CB, we can use the formula of CB for calculating 1.41 times CP to the power of 2.011. If you fix the CP value 0.58 to 0.65, then we can arrive a CB value of by using this formula 0.48 to 0.59. So these are the main parameters before starting the lines plan or whatever this. What is the main particulars of the vessel? And these are the bulkhead requirements for the fishing vessels. Transverse bulkheads. One collision bulkhead to be located at a distance greater than 0.08 L from the forward perpendicular. And this collision bulkhead position to be decided based on the length of the vessel also. If we go in depth, if the vessel length is more than 45 meters, then that for collision bulkhead will be positioned in 0.05 times L to 0.08 times L. And if it is less than 45 meters, the value may be around 0.05 times length of the vessel. And one aft peak bulkhead to be provided, and one at each end of the engine room. That means engine room should have two bulkheads. One is aft and one is the forward. And transverse bulkheads in way of fish holes are normally not to be spaced more than 0.15 times length apart. So that means the length of the fish hole, the maximum length of the fish hole to be 0.15 times length of the vessel. And the spacing need not be taken less than 9 meters and is not to be exceed 12 meters. That fish hole bulkhead minimum 9 meters and the maximum is 12 meters. And in the longitudinal bulkhead in the fish holes, one longitudinal bulkhead to be provided at center line of the ship. If the beam is less than or equal to 6 meters. And if breadth is more than 6 meters, then we should have two longitudinal bulkheads in way of fish holes. And these are the some main design considerations for the fishing vessels. And there should be a double bottom to be provided for ships more than or equal to 75 meters in length. And this double bottom shall be fitted extending from the collision bulkhead to the aft beak bulkhead. And this should be continuous between aft beak bulkhead to the collision bulkhead. And this double bottom to be protect the vessels up to the turn of the bilge. If there is a bilge, we have to take the tank top till upper portion of the bilge. That is the upper turn of the bilge to protect the bottom of the vessel. And the scantling draft should not be less than 0.9 times depth. So for calculating the scantlings, we have to take the scantling draft of 0.9 times depth of the vessel. And the thickness of the bilge and side shell plating is increased by 30% in case of side trawling vessels. The coaming height of the skylights should not be less than 900 mm. If there is any coaming on the deck level, that should not be less than 900 mm. And height of the watertight hatchways and sill heights are not less than 600 mm. So usually we will provide the bilge keels to reduce the rolling of the vessel. And also inclining test to be done for getting light ship weight and the CG of the vessel. These are the basic loading conditions we have to consider for calculating stability. For calculating these loading conditions, first we should have a weight estimate, proper weight estimate and COG. And from that we have to calculate the light ship weight and the dead weights of the vessel. These dead weights are to be calculated for the different loading conditions. And mainly we have to consider these four loading conditions for the intact stability. The first one is departure for the fishing grounds with full fuel, stores, ice, fishing gear, fresh water, everything, whatever dead weights, consumables are to be 100%. That is the loading condition first one. And the second loading condition, departure from the fishing grounds with full catch. And the third one is arrival at home port with full catch and 10% stores fuel, 10% fuel and fresh water, etc. All these are 10%. And arrival at home port with 10% stores is fuel, fresh water, etc. And minimum of 20% of full catch. These are the minimum loading conditions we have to check for the intact stability calculations. If there is any adverse effect with other loading conditions, those are also we have to place in the stability booklet and send it for the approval. So this is the intact stability criteria applicable for 24 meters and above in length. That area under GZ curve. For example, if you take the area under GZ curve, 0 to 30 degrees, the area should be minimum 0.055 meters per radians. That is the minimum requirement. And for 0 to 40 degree angle or down flooding angle, which one is less? That area should be under GZ is 0.09 meters per radians. And the area between 30 to 40 down flooding point is 0.03. This is a normal criteria only, just like other normal ships. And the minimum righting lever should be 0.2 meters. And the angle should be greater than or equal to 30 degrees. This minimum righting lever 0.2 we should get equal or greater than at 30 degrees of angle of heel. And the maximum righting R should be more than 30 degrees. That maximum righting R should occur more than 30 degrees, but not less than 25 degrees. Similarly, initial metacentric height GM should be minimum 0.35 meters. And also we have to show the weather criteria. So weather criteria is severe wind and rolling conditions to be checked for the vessels more than 45 meters. But whatever this area, ZZ curve, minimum, maximum righting or initial, these things we have to check for 24 meters and above. But when it comes to severe wind and rolling, we have to check for 45 meters vessels, more than 45 meters vessels. And also we have to check free surface effect of the water in fish bins, tanks for GM correction values. And icing to be considered. And the loads of ice loads of 0.3 kilonewton per meter square to 0.075 kilonewton per meter square. These ice formation on the deck. That weight has to be considered. And water on the deck also to be considered if the requirement of the freeing ports are not meeting the as per requirements of the water stoppage. And the effect of the crane lifting for fishing operations also to be considered as a movement arm. This is the intact stability criteria. This is the stability curve, ZZ curve. And if you see, this is the horizontal is the heeling angle, x-axis, and the y-axis we will take as a righting lever. And this is the ZZ curve. And 0 to 30, it is the area under ZZ curve that we will check. And similarly 30 to 40 and 40 to down flooding, 30 to 40 are down flooding angle. Actually, in this case, the down flooding angle is coming at 58. So up to 40, we have to consider whatever the area coming under GZ, and that we will check with the requirements. So this is some basic GZ curve output. This is the area that is under GZ curve up to 30 degrees, the required values and attained values, whether it is meeting the requirements and all, we will check as a status. Here I will show one sample fishing vessel stability report. So this is a ship fishing vessel of length 32 meters, and this is for the light ship condition. And for wind criteria and all, we will check with the windage area above waterline, and that is shown in the green color here. So in the light ship condition, there is only light ship weight will be considered, and there is no dead weights. And this is the stability curve. So for the stability curve, whatever the criteria applicable, those things we will check. So this is the criteria check. So and similarly, we will check the intact stability criteria for rest of the loading conditions as required. So coming back to damage stability, vessels with length more than or equal to 100 meters and the total number of passengers carried on board is 100 or more, then we have to check the damage stability for one compartment. And the damage extensions. So in the vertical, we have to take the damage extension from baseline to the, there is no end in the top. So we will take it vertical from the baseline to the depth of the vessel. And in the transverse direction, we will take breadth by 5 at the deepest operating water line. This breadth we will take at the deepest operation water line. If you have a longitudinal bulkhead at a distance breadth by 5, then your depth of penetration is side shell to till longitudinal bulkhead. And the permeability values for the damage stability, we have to consider as per the rules and requirements. For the control stations, accommodation, kitchens, and all these things are 95%. Machinery and ventilation rooms, we will take it 85%. And storage and refrigerated rooms is 60. Tanks and bunkers 0 or 95 based on the loading and severity of the loading condition. In the void spaces, it is around 95. These are the normal for most of the vessels, the permeability values, what I have shown here. And with respect to the damage stability criteria, there should be a minimum range of 20 degrees of positive righting lever, and the righting lever within the range of positive stability of at least 0.1 meters. We should have a righting lever of 0.1 meter. And area under GZ curve should be 0.0175 from angle of equilibrium to the first progressive flooding angle. And the angle of heel in the final condition of flooding shall not exceed 20 degrees. So after one compartment damage in any condition, the heel of the vessel should not exceed 20 degrees. And the initial metacentric height of the damaged vessel in the final condition of the flooding for the upright position shall be positive and not less than 50 mm. This is the main damage stability criteria. These criteria we have to check if the vessel is more than 100 meters and there is a 100% more than 100% passengers on board. So if you see, for example, if you consider this is a transverse section of a fishing vessel and this area under GZ curve. So that is a main calculation part for the stability. For example, if you see this is the line touching and touching center of buoyancy and passing through the deck edge. Up to this angle, the GZ curve goes on increase because of additional reserve buoyancy from draft to the deck, and after that it will start going down. That GZ curve will start going down because of there is no reserve buoyancy once the deck edge immersion happens. And this line is passing from the center of buoyancy to the point of down flooding. That's the minimum point of the down flooding. So for example, if in the tender design or the basic design stage, if we are not meeting stability criteria under GZ curve, so then sometimes it is not possible to reduce the draft and reduce the other dimensions. In that case, we can suggest with some proposal to get the intact stability within the limits. For example, if you see, this is a blue line hull form. Here we have increased the depth. Increased depth gives the extra reserve buoyancy to the vessel. And second one is magenta color. This is reduced beam. So even reduced beam also gives a higher angle of heel when compared to the green hull form. And these down flooding points also, if there is any problem with the GZ curve with the down flooding points, it is always better try to shift the down flooding points. For example, if it is a exhaust to air vent or something inboard, so that we will get a positive range of stability beyond the particular angle of heel. So this is just a typical body plan of the fishing vessel. This is a station body plan, a single monohull configuration, and there is a upper chain, and the bottom it is a U shape. So this is the resistance calculations for the fishing vessel. We can use haul drop and Manon method. If the values, the CP and L by B ratios are within these range, then we can use this haul drop method. Actually, these are the basic design parameters. Length by breadth ratio is 4.4 to 5.8. So if you see fishing vessels and tugs, the length by breadth ratio is 3.9 to 6.3. So whatever the L by B value within these 4.4 to 5.8, we can apply haul drop method for resistance calculations. And you see the CP is also 0.55 to 0.65. So this value is within the range of the fishing vessel design parameters. That's 0.58 to 0.65. And this is the Froude number maximum is 0.38. Just I will show you one haul drop method for the fishing vessel calculation for the resistance. So this is some resistance calculations based on the haul drop method for a length of 32 meters. And this length, breadth, depth, all these things are the just inputs. These inputs we will get it from the hull form or preliminary hull surface. So we can calculate the vectored surface area based on the haul drop method, or if we have a vectored surface area from the hull form, that we can use as a base, and we will calculate the form factor 1 plus k based on the haul drop method. And here we will calculate the air frictional coefficient and air drag coefficient. Then we will, based on that, we will calculate the frictional resistance. So the frictional resistance is directly proportionate to the wetted surface area. If the wetted surface area increases, then the frictional resistance increases. And we will calculate the residual resistance. And finally, we will get the total resistance for the selected speed. This is some typical Hall-Trap resistance calculation for fishing vessel. And also we can use the Work-Merson resistance calculations. This method can be used for estimating the resistance calculation for fishing boats, stern trawlers. If crude number within the range of 0.2 to 0.5 and the similar length by breadth ratio is 3.4 to 6.2, but as per our design considerations, it is around 4.4 to 5.8, so that we can use this resistance method for the fishing vessels. And B by T is 1.9 to 3.2. That is also within the range of fishing vessel ratios, main dimension ratios. And similarly CP and CM. When it comes to the powering, so once we get the resistance calculations, we will estimate the propulsion power. So from the resistance calculations, we will get the effective power. Effective power is directly estimated from the resistance calculations. After that, we will calculate the propulsion power. So for the propulsion power, there is some losses in the system from the main engine to the propeller. So for getting those efficiencies, we will have hull efficiency, and open water efficiency of the propeller, and relative rotative efficiency and shaft efficiency. So for the shaft losses, generally we will take 5 to 7%, and relative efficiency we will take 1 to 1.1. It's based on the stern hull form. And open water efficiency of the propeller we will take directly from the propeller. If it is in the selected propeller, open water efficiency will be taken. And hull efficiency is almost is equal to 0.9 to 1. So based on these all efficiencies, we will calculate the total efficiency. It's nothing but it is a different way we will calculate it is QPC. So after getting all these losses, we will get the propulsion power of the main engines. So for estimating the installed power plant, we have to take some margins. So one is a design margin. So usually design margin of 5 to 7% we will consider, and the C margin of 10 to 15% to be considered. And is there any special requirement of MCR, maximum continuous ratings? If it is a slow speed engines, usually we will go up to 84%. So that percentage margin also to be considered. And also we have to consider the growth margin. If it is in the basic design stage or tender stage, we should have some growth margin for final estimates. For example, in the initial estimate, we will go with some light ship weight, but during the design stage, there is some additional increase or additional weights or something. So those margins we have to consider. So this is the propulsion plant systems. And the first one, this is a direct drive. In this case, the main drive shaft is connected to the engine without any gearbox. This type of drive system we usually use for the slow speed engines. And the second one, it is with gearbox. So the gearbox will be fitted between the engine and the propeller shaft. And another one is the electric drives. In these electric drives, we will have a generator. From the generator, electric motor is connected. From the electric motor, the shaft will rotate. And sometimes there is a directly generator will give the power to the propeller with electric motors. And also gas turbines and all are also installing in some naval ships and all recently. It is a different propulsion plants installing in the submarines and some naval ships. Next, coming to the hull materials for the ship structures. Usually we will use mild steel and aluminum and GFRP, fiber reinforced plastic, wood and plywoods. These type of materials we used for construction of the fishing vessels also. In the mild steel, there is a different categories. Normal strength steel is a basic steel. It is having a yield strength of 235 Newton per mm square, and some high tensile strength steels also is there. So, for example, if it is NV27, the yield strength will be 265 Newton per mm square, and NV32 is 27 is represents in kgs. That if you take it in Newton per mm square, it becomes 265, 315. And apart from the tensile strength, there is another term, material grades. So just we will see what is the material grades to be used in the shipbuilding industry. So these are the some material grades, grade A, grade B, grade D, and grade E. So based on the thickness range, there is a selection of the grade based on the class. For example, the thickness is less than 15. We can use grade A in any class, class 1 to class 4. We can use grade A or grade AH. If it is high tensile steel, we can use grade A high tensile steel. And if it is 15 to 20, for class 1, 2, and 3, we can use grade A. But if it is class 4, we have to use grade B. And similarly, based on the thickness, we have to select the grade D based on the class. If you see the class table, for example, if the longitudinal bulkheads other than that belonging to the primary category, then we have to use the class 2 within 0.4 L midships. So whatever the longitudinal bulkheads coming within 0.4 L, we have to use class 2. For example, if you go here, class 2, the longitudinal bulkheads up to 30 mm, we can go up to grade A for longitudinal bulkheads. But whereas bottom plating and keel plate within the 0.4 L, we have to check with class 3 grade. So for example, if you go to class 3, if it is a bottom shell, if the bottom shell is between 20 to 25 mm thick, we have to go with grade B for normal strength steel. Or if it is high tensile steel, then we can go with grade A. So similarly, based on this class table, we have to choose the grade, appropriate grade based on the location of the material member. And this is some structural arrangement for the fishing vessels. For any fishing vessel, we should have a forecastle deck if the shear in the forebody is less than 1.5 times the standard shear in accordance with ICLL. And length of the forecastle deck should not be less than 0.07 times length of the ship, and the height is not to be less than 1.5 meters. And this is the requirement of the forecastle deck. And the minimum bow height at side should be 56 times length. As per this formula, we have to calculate the minimum bow height at the side at the deepest water line. And the thickness of the bulwark is not to be less than 80% of the side shell plating. So, based on the calculations of the side shell plate related to the bulwark should be 80%, and it should be minimum 6 mm. And the bulwark stays are to be fitted at every second frame. And the thickness calculation for the bottom and side shell plating for the fishing vessels is the formula is 4 plus 0.06 L by square root of F1. F1 is the material factor. If we use the normal strength steel, if the material factor will be 1. And for the stern trawlers, this is the formula for the thickness. Actually, for any thickness calculations, we use pressure and spacing of the stiffeners. But whereas in the fishing vessel and the stern trawler, these calculations given based on the length. And also in the rules, they are mentioning that frame spacing exceeding the rule value, then the thickness is to be increased in direct proportional. So if you are taking the frame spacing with a different value than whatever specified in the rule, then this thickness to be direct proportionate to the spacing. So coming to the sea pressure acting on the bottom shell and side shell. The pressure acting on the ship's bottom and side shell shall be taken as sum of the static and the dynamic pressures. So the pressure acting on the bottom shell will have one static component and the dynamic component. And the static pressure is directly rho GH is a direct calculations like a potential energy, potential calculation that rho times G times H, that is a direct head. And the dynamic pressure depends mainly on the speed of the vessel and the length of the vessel and wave coefficient. Based on these parameters, we usually calculate the dynamic pressure. And coming to cargo loads, dry cargo loads depends mainly on cargo density, stowage height of the cargo loaded, and vertical acceleration of the vessel. So based on these parameters, we will calculate the dry cargo load. And also we will calculate the strengthening requirement for grab operations. If there is any grab operations, then the requirement of the deck to be calculated based on the requirements. And the liquid cargo loads depends mainly on cargo density, height of the tank. Height of the tank means that the cargo tank, and height of the air pipe positioned, and sloshing loads, vertical acceleration of the vessel. All these parameters are to be considered for calculating the liquid cargo loads. So these are some standard deck loads we usually take while calculating the scantlings. For weather deck loads, we will take sea pressure and deck cargo. At the minimum, we will consider 0.5 ton per meter square. And weather deck hatch covers, the covers are loaded with the cargo, then it will be 1 ton per meter square to 1.75 ton per meter squares. And the platform decks in machinery spaces, we will take 1.6 ton per meter square, and accommodation decks 0.35. And for the bottom plating, we will consider the docking forces which are coming from the dock blocks, and also wheel loads. If there is any wheel loads on the deck, these wheel loads depends on the wheel footprints and the pressure or static wheel load. Based on this, we will calculate the wheel loads. And some forces acting on the supporting structure for heavy units of cargo. For example, if there is any some cargo unit or some equipment coming on the deck. So usually we will, for example, if it is a freeboard deck, as per the rules, we will calculate the weather deck pressure and we will arrive the scantlings for plating and secondary and primary stiffeners. But if there is an equipment coming on the forecastle deck or main deck, whatever it may be, that is, we have to take it as an extra load coming onto the deck. For that purpose, we have to calculate the forces. So there are these forces. This is a vertical force of the equipment is 9.81 is 9.81 is nothing but acceleration due to gravity plus 0.5 times vertical acceleration. So this is AV is the vertical acceleration of the vessel times mass of the unit. So this is the extra force coming onto the deck due to the vertical acceleration 0.5 times AV. This is to be considered. And similarly, transverse force will be 0.67 times transverse acceleration of the vessel. And the longitudinal force is also 0.67 times longitudinal acceleration. So these three forces will act on the deck. And all three forces need not consider for at a time. So usually we will consider vertical force and the transverse force, and similarly vertical force along with the longitudinal force. These two combinations to be checked for heavy cargo equipment is coming on the decks. And apart from this, we have to consider the wind loads acting on the equipment. So these are the basic scantling calculations based on the class rules. So this is the plating thickness, the T equal to, this is the formula for the plating thickness. In this, the P is the pressure. So this pressure we will calculate based on the class rules, based on the location, whether it is bottom shell or weather deck, whatever it may be. That pressure we have to apply for calculating the corresponding plating thickness. Here S is the stiffener spacing and Tk is the corrosion addition, and sigma is the allowable stress. So for calculating the plating thickness, it is directly proportional to the spacing of the stiffener. For example, if you calculate the plating thickness, for example, if S equal to 500 mm and corresponding pressure, if you get some 8.5 or 8.6 mm, 8.6, 8.7 mm, sometimes in the mills it is very difficult to get 8.5, 8.6 thickness. So we have to go for next thickness. Sometimes 9 may not be available. Forcibly we have to select 10 mm instead of 8.6. So in that case, we can increase the S. So instead of 500, we can go with 525 or 550, 575, something like that. And if we get close to the available thickness in the market, then you will have a optimized structure. So these type of checks we have to do parallelly for arrangement of the decks and profile drawings or whatever this midship arrangement, all these things. So sometimes if we get based on the selected frame spacing, you will get 10.5 mm or 10.6 mm. In that case also, we may not get 11 mm in the market. So we have to go with the 12 mm. So these all these six we have to do in the design stage itself, so that we will optimize the structure and reduce the light shift weights. So this is the section modulus calculation for the primary and secondary members, and this is also directly proportionate to the stiffener spacing and square of the stiffener span. So main key point here is the span of the stiffener, because it is coming square. So if you see, this is some panel with this is a panel plate with secondary and the primary stiffeners. So for calculating the plating thickness, this is a formula. So this is the S is the stiffener spacing. So that is, this is the stiffener spacing. So this stiffener spacing we can optimize based on the requirement of the or availability of the plating thickness. And this is a secondary member and this is a primary member. For the secondary member, the span we have to take it. For example, this end is connected with the bulkhead and this end is fixed at this girder, so that this is your span L. In the formula, this becomes L square, and S is spacing between the stiffeners. And for calculating the section modulus for the primary members, and this is the primary member, you will take L is from this end to this end. For example, there is a bulkhead this end and another end, so that this girder is fixed between the bulkheads or pillars. So for this, you will have a spacing of 50% of either side of this girder to the other fixed primary member. So based on this, we have to calculate the thickness of the plate and section modulus of the secondary and primary members. Next, coming to the longitudinal strength. So this longitudinal strength is applies only ships with length 90 meters and above. And for this longitudinal strength calculations, we will check the still water bending moments and still water shear forces. These are to be calculated along the length of the ship for each loading conditions. So each loading condition, the still water bending moment varies based on the loading. And the vertical wave bending moment and vertical shear forces, we will calculate as per the class rules. And also we have to calculate the midship section modulus. Midship section modulus of the all longitudinal material to be calculated. This is the geometric properties of the cross section of the midship. So we will calculate the moment of inertia of the section provided. From that moment of inertia, we will calculate the section modulus at deck and section modulus at the bottom. So that value you have to check with the minimum rule requirement as per this rule, this formula. CW is the wave coefficient formula, L is the length, B is the breadth, and CB. So from this, we will check with the geometric properties of the section modulus. And also midship section modulus to be checked with the loading conditions. This section modulus ms plus mw. Ms we will take from the loading conditions, and mw we will take it from the rules. And we will this sigma is the allowable bending stress. And whatever the value provided for the midship section, that should be more than this minimum requirement or as per the loading condition requirements. So this is the longitudinal strength output for a particular loading condition. Actually, this one is the light ship weight distribution, and this one is the maximum bending moment. This is the allowable bending moment as per the material provided. That is a midship section. For example, if it is a 0.4 L, it will have a maximum value, and after that we can taper the section, reduced sections. And this is the bending moment, still water bending moment from the loading condition. This always should be less than the provided section modulus, bending moment, shear force, and bending moment and shear force of the existing. So this way we have to check the still water bending moment for all the loading conditions. Next, coming to the welding. So these are the butt joints. So up to 6 mm, we can directly weld the plates without any bevel or edge preparations. So for example, if it is a more than 6 mm, we have to give the edge preparation for the butt welds. And these two plates are more than 6 mm, and we are giving a 30-degree bevels, each 15 degree on each plate. This is the double bevel. And this is also a bevel, double bevel giving on one plate, and another plate is a square weld. And this is bevel for both the plates. And this is the lap joint, and this is the slot joints. Usually we will give the slot joints for rudder skag where we cannot go and weld inside. So some confined spaces and all, we will give the slot welds. This is a backing strip. So backing strip shall be provided in way of slot welds. The D is the spacing of the slot welds, and LW is the length of the slot weld. This D and LW we will calculate based on the class rules. And this is the T weld or fillet welds. And another one is the intermediate welds. In this intermediate welds, we will use either chain weld or staggered weld. That location of the intermediate welds is to be taken from the as per the rules and as per the location. Usually for the superstructure and all, we will go with the intermediate welds. For example, if the plate is 4 mm and 5 mm, we cannot give the continuous fillet welds because of high heat input and lesser thickness, it deforms. So in that areas we can use the chain weld or staggered weld, and also where we can use this intermediate weld, that we can take it from the class rules. Even
Raju, I think we'll give some time for questions also.
sir.
You have come to end or still?
Yes, sir. Only one more slide, sir.
Okay,
One more.
okay, right.
Yes. And there is a full penetration welds we will use where rudder horns and shaft brackets to the shell structures, rudder side plating to the rudder stock connections, thruster tunnels to the side shell. So in some areas we will use the full penetration weld. So this is the some typical detail for the full penetration weld. So these are the some weld and taper details usually we use in the ship constructions. And this is a single V for thickness 6.5 to 32 mm. And this is a single V weld with different thickness. If it is a different thickness, we will use some chamfer for higher thickness material. Yeah, that chamfer we will use 3 times the difference in the thickness. And this is a straight square weld. This we can use up to 6 mm. And this is the square weld with different thickness. And this weld is the backing strip with single V. So sometimes we will put the permanent backing strip or ceramic backing strips for welding the plates where the back gouging is not possible. And this is a double V weld. So if the thickness is more than 30 mm, we will use the double V welds. Up to 50 mm, 30 to 50 mm, we will use double V welds. This is usually we will call single V or J weld. So these are the typical some welding methods or welding bevel taper details and weldings we will use for the joining the plates. Yeah.
Okay, then now we have come to the end of the lecture. Now the floor is open to you all the students. To tell you frankly, he has covered all the topics of fishing vessel design. Okay, we are saying just fishing vessel, but this is the entire design process for any ship. Okay, so he has covered the stability, he has covered the resistance, he has covered the structural design. Okay, and he has covered the basic design of the hull form. Everything he has covered. Okay, so yes, it is a fantastic lecture. So now I request our students, if you have any questions, so please ask. Don't feel shy. No problem. This is the time you have to ask questions and learn something from the speaker. You don't have to feel shy. Okay. So please ask questions. Any questions, please?
Sir,
Please.
sir, can you explain that intermediate weld again?
Okay. Yeah, actually, for example, if there is a 90-degree welding, 90-degree welding means fillet weld if there is a plate and the stiffener. For example, this is a plate and this is a secondary stiffener. And for example, if I give a double continuous weld, I have to run full welds from this end to that end, both the sides. But class says in some areas we can go with the intermittent weldings. So that means we will weld some portion. For example, 75 mm from one side we will weld, and another again we will give some gap, and we will weld again 75 mm, and again we will give 75 mm gap and 75 mm weld. Understand? So
Yes.
one second, you see these two are the weld lines. In the chain weld, this is the weld, and again there is a gap. Can you able to see my cursor?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, this is the first weld, and after that there is a space, and again they will weld, and again space. This is a chain weld. In the staggered weld, we will use one side from here to here one weld, and there is a space, and there is a weld on other side. For example, this side and this side. You assume this side and this side, and this horizontal line is this plate, this vertical plate. Understand?
Okay, Yogi, understood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Understood.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is the weld, and again this is the weld, and again gap, and this is the weld, this is the weld, again gap.
Okay,
So
sir. Okay.
this in this method we can reduce the deformations of the plate, because if you go with a full fillet weld, continuous double continuous weld, you will have a deformations on the plate.
Okay, sir. I understood.
Okay. Any other question from any other student? Krishna Prasad?
Sir,
Yeah, any questions?
sir, in intact stability for 24 meter
Vivek
and
Kumar. Okay.
yes, sir. Sir,
Please
you have
ask.
said, sir, maximum writing arm should be 30° and more, sir. Can you explain, sir, why? But sir, it should not be less than 25 years, sir.
Yeah, actually in the IAX recommendations at whatever it may be, that should be 30 degrees, but should not be less than 25 degrees. They are specifying like that. If there is not meeting the 30-degree requirement, we can go up to 25 degrees in some cases.
See, Vivek, see, first of all, we have to understand the physics behind the stability curves. Okay. So the area under the curve is an important factor for the energy. Okay. So similar, the stability curve is just similar to stress strain curve of a material. Okay.
Yeah,
So exactly. Okay. So the more the area under the GZ curve, the vessel is having more power basically to come back.
yes,
Understand?
restoring force will be more.
Restoring force. Okay. So that concept you have to understand. That is the reason they are giving at least minimum. If you have this much, yes, that gives you the guarantee. Yes, vessel will come back. Okay. So that is the meaning. Okay.
sir.
Right, good question. See, I'm asking like this only. When you ask like this, yes, you will learn. So maybe speaker or myself and all, we may be having many things at the background, but we may not tell that because taking for granted, yes, you know some things. Okay. So now any other question? Anyone? Okay, then if you don't have further questions, so we will end the session here. Okay, thank you very much, Jagannathan Raju. You have given a
Thank you.
wonderful lecture on fishing vessel design aspects, including the structural design aspects. Really, it is a wonderful lecture. You have covered even all the Scantling's calculation procedure from the class point of view also. And really, it is a very good lecture. There's no doubt in that. Okay, you have covered bulkhead positions. You have covered the scantlings, how to take the thickness. Okay, so now it all depends on the students how they can make use of it. Okay, and at the same time, students, you don't have to get panic by seeing all these things. Also, why I'm saying is this and all he has explained with like 20 to 24 years of experience. Okay, fine. See, as in a nutshell, within 1 hour he has covered entire fishing vessel design. See, now what I'm saying, like yesterday also, so once you join a particular design organization and when you are in the design group of a fishing vessel, automatically you learn all these things. Okay, and rule book understanding is also you should have a lot of interest whenever you are free, you have to open a rule book and go and read, underline, asterisk it, whatever it is. Okay, write your own understanding. What does it mean? So then only you will be able to what you call be in this field for a long time. Okay. Thank you very much, Raju. With this, thank you all the students. So with this, we will conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
giving
thank
this opportunity to discuss
Yeah,
about the fishing vessels design and structural
correct.
designs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, one and all.